Me's.
Wow, beautiful. So yeah, so we're doing a series of short videos with the co-teachers that we're going to have on our online class called Open Love, the pursuit of open what did I call it? Open relationship happiness. Here's Blake joining us on the call. Blake is going to be co-teaching, as he's my co-creator in this adventure. And then KamalaDevi here is a rock star of polyamory. I think she's one of the first people I've ever heard being what I would call an activist of open relating and polyamory and non-monogamy. And for as long as I've known you, KamalaDevi, you've been a staunch proponent of open relationships and polyamory. I think polyamory is really the word that you use most. And I have to say, I've never seen anybody quite like you in that arena, and it's very inspiring to know that somebody can like take a stand. And you know, I have to admit, the first time I heard from you, I was like, wow, she's very like specific about how it's supposed to be, and I don't know if I agree with that, but there's something about that kind of stand that I think supports people in figuring out their own stand for themselves. And so I appreciate that about you, and I've gotten to know you since 3 or 4 years ago, and come to appreciate everything you have to say. And you're also a teacher and a lead facilitator for ISTA, which is also a wonderful experience for people to have in the exploration of relating with other humans. So welcome.
Thank you, Philippe, and nice to meet you, Blake.
Nice to meet you too, KamalaDevi. Good to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in kind of a public space, so I'm mostly going to listen to you two on this one. But thank you for the invitation.
So, KamalaDevi, do you want to add anything to what I said, or would you like us to launch into the live call?
Sure, I'll take a moment to clarify, because I imagine there's people here who this is our first time meeting, or that you've seen me on Showtime, because our reality show Polyamory, Married, and Dating is actually rerunning right now. So I'm getting a lot of, fan mail, but also hate mail. You know, it's a really active time when the show runs. So what I want to clarify is that the label, actually, polyamory, is because of the show, probably what I've become the poster child for, but that's not my, open relationships, a wonderful, broader umbrella term. Ultimately, I'm a proponent of people loving in a way that's aligned with who they are, and that can look any number of different ways. So the way that it's done on the show is absolutely specific, and it's as if this is the way to do it, but that's part of what happens when you're edited into a 30-minute episode, as opposed to, showing up for the broad spectrum of what's possible in human interactions.
Yeah, I like, sometimes people ask me about polyamory, open relating, non-monogamy, and I say, probably my version of what the oldest, my sense of the oldest version of that is blood families, and, parents having multiple kids and having to manage attention and scheduling and energy and so having to do this, a lot of the skills that you learn as a parent, or that I've learned as a parent, are very similar to the skills the skills that people who are in multiple romantic relationships need. I mean, it's obviously different, but there's something about having the opportunity to love multiple people that is very similar, and in terms of affection, in terms of time and energy. And so I tend to tell people, like, it's not that new. And of course, people have been cheating on each other since the dawn of times. But it's out there. The idea of loving more than one person is already out there.
And the new part, the edgy part, is, can we be totally honest about it?
Yeah.
Can we actually articulate our desires and our fears, and can we also, like, vulnerably share when we're feeling insecure and jealous? And that's typically not socially acceptable. And so that really is the next step in our conscious evolution, more than, the capacity to love other people, because nobody questions when you have multiple kids, that you love them, that you're capable of loving both of your sons or whatever. That's not even being debated.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it takes skills. I mean, I know as a parent, I've had to learn to manage my time and my attention even way more than when I was in my more open and free floating days of polyamory. And now it's like every moment counts. And it really does too, because the kids are growing so fast. So I didn't want to take it too much far into family, but I feel it's very relevant in terms of having learned the hard way, the skills of managing my time and my attention. And also, I imagine there's a bit of a transformation that occurs when somebody launches into that particular journey. And so that's one of the things that you're going to be teaching, called the Journey of Transformation, on December 19th. And then there's also the structure of open poly and non-monogamy. So which I imagine will connect with what's the best way to do it for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the journey of transformation is about seeing relationships as a spiritual practice.
Mm.
So it's noticing that, we're attracted to people because we want to learn something. They reflect back to us aspects of ourselves that are perhaps unseen to us. And so how we become more self-aware and we actually transform, because neuroscience has shown that when we're in love and when we're relating to people, our brain chemistry gets all lit up, and our neural pathways we're more neuroplastic when we're falling in love. So at that time, when you have not just perhaps one lover, but multiple lovers, how do we optimize our own, consciousness and transformation? Excited to be sharing that with you.
That's great.
And so, Philippe, I love that you're doing this multiple themed course because, open relating is so vast. There's so many different areas, and it's a life study. So just taking a little time to dive deeply into that area. And then the other one, which is the structures of poly. Yes, it is about what works for you. And it's valuable to stand on the shoulders of people who are doing it well. I unfortunately watch too many people that are like, okay, I know I'm not monogamous, so I'm going to break past that box. And then what do is they stumble, or they
fall on their face.
Yeah, totally. And they're like, oh, polyamory doesn't work for me. I tried that. And it's like, but did you try, best practices? Because we know what, through the thousands of people that I've been coaching and millions that are really going beyond monogamy these days, we know what works and we know what doesn't work. We have enough track history to kind of, learn from each other's mistakes. So I'm looking forward to sharing some of the structures that we know work.
Yeah. And I love what you said about best practices. And also, as a practice, these are things that you have to do again and again and again in order to get good at it. It's like somebody who said, okay, I'm gonna try a partner, very complex partner acrobatics, and then you fall on your face. You're like, not for me. I'm never gonna do that again. Well, the kind of high flying trapeze acrobatics that sometimes open relating necessitates requires a lot of practice and a lot of being able to feel into because a lot of it is emotional. And so it takes a fair bit of emotional intelligence and ability to communicate and ability to feel into others and to be able to discern, well, what's really happening here? What's the best way for me to be vulnerable? How do I draw their vulnerable side? So we really know what's going on instead of like skimming the surface of some upset and not really digging into what's really needed. What are the needs that need to be fulfilled?
Yeah, and if we take that metaphor of trapeze or any acrobatics and we back it up, it's like you have to start with the basics of just a back bend, or like, okay, just stretching your muscles, or and the biggest thing I'd say, even if somebody's like on this call right now being like, give me a tip, give me a tool, like right now, just say slow down. And by slowing down, it's looking at, like, instead of thinking, oh, I want to have a dozen lovers like KamalaDevi does on TV, and just thinking, wait a minute, how do I take the ones that I love right now, whoever it is that I'm relating to, And I actually look at what's our next baby step.
Yeah.
What's going to help us let go of old, maybe it's just working on old programming. Like if you're just starting the journey, wherever you are, you can look at, maybe there's nothing I can do with other lovers, but I can look inside me and say, what's a limiting belief that I have? For example, that my lover's being with somebody else somehow takes love away from me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let me just see how much of a grip that has on me. And can I let that go a little more? And that's becoming more open.
Or even just your partner, if you're still monogamous and you're curious and your partner goes out to hang out with his buddies or her girlfriends, and even that's causing a reaction, to be able to say, wow, what is it that I'm missing? Or what would it take for me to be a full yes to my partner having time for themselves, taking care of themselves, having fun with their friends, like not even going to lovers yet, because that might be like way too much of a step. Like even more of a baby step is what happens when my partner or my lover is not with me, and the kind of loops that I can go into, or the kind of ways that I feel like, oh well, they're not there, so I don't care. Mm-hmm. Like it could be disconnected, or it could be looping on what are they doing, and maybe they're having fun and I'm not, and so there's all kinds of ways that we can notice any reaction that's not fully relaxed and chill, so to speak.
Good. Yeah.
So I'm curious, how did you get started? Because that's one of the things I wanted to do in these calls is sort of brings the teachers back to, or at least in terms of witnessing, is like bring the teachers back to earth and say, well, everybody gets started somewhere. It could have been at 5 when you had to share your best friend with somebody else in this sort of like playtime, or it could be, when you're a teenager or later on. So I'm curious what it was for you, because I actually don't know.
Sure. My coming of age and through puberty and into my sexuality was very oriented towards women. And so I had almost like a lesbian initiation period through college and, through high school. Actually, I came out in high school and then also in college. And one of the things that I found in every date I went on is that in the lesbian community, at least, there was like this conversation about their ex-lovers. Like, it's like your first date and you're like talking about the people that you love. And it was very clear to me in the lesbian community, which was small and kind of everyone knew everyone, that, and if you had a breakup, you had to become friends with them because you were going to see them tomorrow night at the only bar, right?
Right.
So there was definitely a culture of everyone that you've ever loved, you still love, and we were all family. And that was, it's a poly value that was already in the lesbian culture, which was already part of the alternative. Like, we're not heterosexist, we're not, and then I fell in love with a man who was a yoga teacher at the time. And my girlfriend, who we were graduating college, and she said, we're going to graduate and probably go our separate ways, because she was going to one direction, I was going another. She says, but I get that you're in love with this man, and I don't want to hold you back from that, but I still love you. And so she just gave me permission to be with him. And that was I was just like, whoa, how, like, I was wrestling with, am I bisexual? But wow, how true is it that I am in love with this person? I'm in love with this woman. And she knew we were going to leave anyway, so she didn't want to possess me. And there was such wisdom in her just loving me so freely. So I saw her love like this incredibly noble love. And I had never heard the term polyamory or even known anyone. Like, my parents divorced because of infidelity. So this was unimaginable to me to have 2 lovers. And he and she never really got along. There's a tension between them, but I had deep love with him, deep love with her. And I felt like, it's like, you can have your cake and eat it too. So as I followed him, like when college happened, and I continued dating her like on Thanksgiving and whenever I came home, but as I followed him, we started on the premise that we didn't own each other and we shared each other. So I actually moved in with him and his ex-lover, he's occasionally still connected with. And that moved into Hawaii. And that began this whole exploration on an artist commune with not just polyamory, but also Tantra and kink and, consciousness, like permaculture. And, it's just this whole like utopic awakening for several years on the islands. And then in some ways, it's like I just went seeking, world traveling, looking for what is this that I tapped into.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So what would you say is like the the biggest shift that's happened since that? I don't know. It's a big question, which could end with a very, very short answer. What's been the biggest shift for you since that beginning time?
Okay. So that beginning time was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And when I kind of crystallized, I would say, now I'm married. I have an 11-year-old son. I'm like, this is my calling. And when I say this is my calling, it's not so much polyamory. It's like sexual liberation on the planet. We're here to wake up and to be sexually free because that's our life force.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was to say what's the biggest or the single driver in all of it, it's that this Eros, the sexual energy, is the God force energy.
Uh-huh.
And that when we try to control that, possess that, push that down, we're basically, it's like heresy, right? It's like you're...
Did you say Eros-y?
No, heresy. But yes. But basically it goes against God, goes against nature, is to contain that. And
it's like holding an animal in a cage when the animal just wants to roam free, which doesn't mean it's a difference between out of control and uncontrolled, which means we're not applying control on it.
So beyond animal though, Philippe, because animals are not monogamous, but it is the God force. Mm-hmm. And by that I mean, like, this is the source of our creativity. This is the source of our that attraction actually leads us to our next lessons for our soul. It's a very profound directive. And I say this with absolute reverence. Those who choose to take this life force energy, their sexual energy, and circulate it with one partner only, or maybe, fidelitously with just a few. I am super honoring of how sometimes people's Eros is actually narrowly, like they want to channel it.
The channel, yeah.
Absolutely. And for some, it's like they want to branch out widely and expand. And like the way my come from is that the universe gives us as much energy as we can use on behalf of the universe. And so that practice of circulating who you are in integrity, so doing it without leaking or lying or cheating or sneaking, like gives you more life force energy to give back to the world.
Yeah, what I'm hearing as you're speaking is there's a very particular spiritual approach that you're taking. So it's less about polyamory as what are you doing, what are the things that you're doing, and more about how you're approaching this from a spiritual standpoint.
Yeah, and you don't have to be spiritual at all. My husband, when I met him, was atheist, and I say when I met him because, in 17 years, path is long and winding. And now when he's out surfing, which is where he practices his spirituality, just like he's in the water and he knows that he's, that's a meditation.
Mm-hmm.
But the point being, it's not like it has to look or sound the way that Eros moves through me.
Right.
But giving people access to their full potential as humans and getting that our human potential is inextricably linked with our, not just our sexual activity, but our I'll say Eros, like the impulse, the evolutionary impulse.
Yes.
That's who we are.
Right.
And that is our attraction, our desires. It, who you're sleeping with is somewhat irrelevant to, are you really allowing for the full range of your Eros?
So it sounds like that could look like that impulse could be purpose. It could be the way you build businesses. It could be the way you have sex with whoever you want to have sex with. And then there's a way to do it that's clean, and there's a way to do it that's ethical, and there's a way to do it that's sort of it's more destructive. And so what I'm hearing you say is there's different ways to harness that energy if you want to approach it if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Well, let's see. I think that's about the time that I want to do this. I want people to get a chance to get to know you and get to witness you. And is there anything that you want to leave people with before you go? Either your current offering. Would you recommend people take a look at the show, or anything else?
Yeah. So I'm excited to be doing more work with you, Philippe. So I want to thank you deeply for offering this. And I do recommend people join us, for these calls. Mm-hmm. And I also recommend, I have a program called Beyond Monogamy, which is available online. So that's it's like an audio call. Right. And then also, I'm most excited. We're kind of wintering before the new year, but I'm most excited about working with mentors. So I as a mentor, working with other love leaders, coaches, healers, facilitators. So if you're in the leadership place and you feel resonance with me and you would like to, know me as a mentor, then get in touch with me through KamalaDevi.com. And then if you're not a leader and you just want to stay in touch with me, KamalaDevi.com offers I actually have a polyamory roadmap, a free little ebook. So sign up for my newsletter and we'll stay in touch.
That's great. And we'll definitely use those tools that you have available, and looking forward to co-teaching with you. And I'd love to bring Blake in to see if he can tell us a little bit more about the course. Blake, are you willing?
I am here. Yes. Thank you, Philippe. And KamalaDevi, I appreciate you being on the call today, and I hope a lot of people get to see it, and look forward to hearing more about what you have to say when you appear in our class on December 19th. And the other day was, I think, the day right before my birthday, so that'll be a treat, the one in January. I'm resonating with you quite a bit over here. A lot of what you have to say about open relating as a spiritual path is, comes right at the heart of how I feel about it as well. And we're going to have a bunch of messaging in the course that relates to, the idea that while you might choose open relationships to have deeper relationships with more people, you can very much end up in a place of having a much deeper relationship with yourself. And I think that is what has kept me really moving through this world. So the class is starting very soon, next Wednesday. And that is November 28th we're starting. The calls are going to be in the evenings at 8 o'clock. And on Zoom, just like we're recording on right now. And we hope that anybody who's interested in me and Philippe's work or KamalaDevi's work, who wants a little bit of help and community to get their open relationship structures blossoming and not, constrained by fear or insecurity, please come check us out. The website is openlove.teachable.com. And right at the bottom of that page there, you'll find a link to the course, which is also called Open Love. Please come get registered. If you want to join with a friend or partner or partners, reach out to us across Facebook here related to this post, and we can send you discount codes to get you and your loved ones signed up. Thanks again, Philippe, for hosting this call.
Thank you. Thanks, KamalaDevi. Looking forward to doing this with you in a few weeks.
You too. Take care.
All right, you too.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.